Hello everyone, this is going to be a quick overview of the Roland V160HD Switcher. I'm going to talk about the default behavior, how to patch a signal to an output, and do some switching. In my setup here, I'm using all HDMI, but the SDI connections will work the same way and they'll behave the same way in the menus. I have 3 computers. Input 1 is running a test pattern. Input 2 is another PC with some flowers on it. Input 3 is a MacBook with a YouTube video. So they are patched into 1, 2, and 3 right here. It's worth noting that by default, HDMI 5 through 8 have scalars on them, and 1 through 4 do not have scalars on them. For outputs, I have HDMI out 1 going to the projector. I have HDMI out 2 going to this small monitor here, and I have HDMI 3 going to this other small monitor here. By default, HDMI 1 is your program output, so what you'd see on your screens or your video wall or your main event display. Output 2 is your preview output, so this will display whichever input signal you have previewed, but it will not affect the program output. HDMI output 3 is the multi-view output. This is another monitor you might have at your tech table, so you could see everything at once. You have preview, program, HDMI inputs, SDI inputs, you name it. Now I'm going to talk about how to change that. Let's say you need 2 main outputs, one for one screen and one for another screen. What I would do is, instead of having HDMI output 2 as your preview monitor, you could go into the menu, go to Video Assign, scroll down to HDMI out 2, and instead of preview, make it aux. Your aux output are these small squares up here, as long as the mode is on aux. So if it's not on aux, you need to push this button until the mode for this row is aux. Now you'll see the input changes as I hit these. It doesn't affect the main output, that's still totally separate. So you could have the program on this and the notes on that for a presenter, all running through the switcher. And then you'd still have your multi-view here at the tech table. Now I'm going to talk about the functionality of these squares a little bit more. The bottom row is your preview by default. When you hit this, all it's going to do is change the source that you're previewing. And if you want to send that source out to program, you have 3 options. You can move the bar, you can hit auto, and you can adjust that fade time in the menu settings here as well. You would just scroll down to transition time. The third option is cut, which is a quick instant cut, which is similar to this other row here. This is an auto take or an instant take. It's kind of an emergency switch, so it immediately changes the program to the input source here. HDMI 1, HDMI 2, 3, and so on. One feature that the new firmware gives you is an aux output 2 and an aux output 3. And again, you need to be on 3.02, or you will not have this option. Earlier we talked about the video assign. You would assign aux 2 and 3 the same way. Say I wanted HDMI out 2 to be aux 2. Okay? Now you would change your selection for aux 2 by holding this mode button for a couple seconds, and while you're holding it down, the preview and the program rows turn into aux 2 and 3. So you can see I can change that now. That's aux 2. If I make it aux 3, it's now going to be the bottom row. So you can have up to 4 discrete outputs on this machine, which is pretty amazing. For the time being, I'll go back to preview. There are different types of multi-views. That's what these buttons here are. You have a 16 input view. You have the multi-view, which we saw earlier. That's 8 inputs in a program and a preview. You have the still image view, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And you have a program view, if you just want another program output. Now I'm going to talk about how to capture a still image. Let's say I really like this dock here, this image here. I can save that as a still using these buttons here. All you do is hit capture image. It's going to ask you to select the target source. So I'm going to select input 3. It says select capture source, number 3. It'll tell you to please wait for a moment. And you can already see that it has saved that image to still 3. It says complete. Okay, great. Now the second step of that is to assign that still image to an input. So let's say I want still 3 to be on number 5. You would do it the same way you assign the outputs. Go to video assign. Let's make input 5 still 3. There it is. So now I have the image that I captured available on input 5. Another thing I'm going to talk about is HDCP support. Sometimes if you're running a MacBook or a Blu-ray player, there will be content protection in the signal that won't allow you to work with it. Right now you can see my signal from the MacBook just fine. I can take it to the screen. I can save still images from it. But if I go to Menu, System, HDCP, and I turn this off, there's a good chance you will not get the signal with the HDC support turned off. Okay, so it was able to get the still image, but I lost my MacBook. You may get it temporarily, or you may get a distorted version of it. So you always want to be careful if you're using something with content protection. Turn this HDCP support on. The last thing I'm going to go through is the split and pip functions. Pips are really easy on the Roland. You have 4 of them right here. All you do is simply hit source. It's going to ask you what the source of your pip should be. Let's say I want the flowers over top of the test pattern. I'll go ahead and select input 2. You hit preview. That's going to put it on the preview right there. And then when you're ready to send it out to program, you just hit program. And now we have the flowers over top of the test pattern. These knobs adjust the position. But they also adjust the size and the zoom. You've got to hold them down. If you hold this down and turn it, it makes it bigger. If you hold the second one down and turn it, it zooms. The other pips work the same way. Let's say I want a second pip of the still image. Select the source, select the still image, hit preview to check it out real quick. Okay, that looks good. Hit program, and it'll send it on the screen. Now I've got 2 pips, just like that, very easy. One little other feature is the split here. It works similar to the pip. You just hit split, and then it's going to ask you what source you want on each side. The top splits side to side, and the top row is the left, and the bottom row is the right. Pretty easy. And then the second split down here splits top to bottom, and the top row is your top, and the bottom is your bottom. And you undo that just by clicking that again, and we're back to where we were. A couple other things worth noting: you can also upload a still image with a USB card. It works the same way. You just, instead of hitting capture, you do it in the menu. Still image. Thanks for watching.